Greetings ladies and gentlefish, and welcome back to another video in which we have some subscriber replays. First off, my apologies for the relative lack of videos over the last couple of weeks. As you might be able to tell from that, I've been a little bit under the weather, which has made recording videos kind of not really viable. So this is the first one I've recorded in a little while. Now, both of these subscriber replays today are going to be featuring Tier 8 premium machines. They're both going to be very impressive games, but this also allows me to have a rant about what Wargaming have done to the matchmaker. I mean, what? For those of you who've been living under a rock for a while, as of patch 9.18, Wargaming decided that the matchmaker should follow a template system, which, to cut a long story short, would mean that you are bottom tier an awful lot of the time, though those bottom tier matches are going to be less painful, as there will only be 3 top tier tanks. Now, my personal issue here is that, well, I don't really understand why. Well, I probably do understand why, but from a gameplay perspective, this seemed to be a solution to which there hadn't been a problem, and thus making the solution completely unnecessary. No one I have ever heard whinging about the matchmaker, and there have been a lot of people who do whinge about the matchmaker. Nobody I have ever heard asked for this, or something even vaguely closely approximating this. So I'm left with the somewhat cynical conclusion that the only reason Wargaming have done it is to make people bottom tier more often, which encourages them to spam more premium ammunition, which makes them more likely to spend gold on the game and get a premium account, which makes them more likely to spend money on the game, and so on and so on and so forth. I can't think of any real gameplay reason why they would have done this, which I think is an incredibly cynical and disappointing move if that is the case. And I would dearly like Wargaming to kind of rewind it. Now, I don't personally think it is as big of a problem as some people, but I still think it's pretty dodgy. Anyway, while I've been doing that, Jelly Boy, who is the person we are currently watching drive around in the Japanese Tier 8 premium tank, the STA-2, Jelly Boy here has been casually meandering around on the Live Oaks map, racking up 2,500 damage and picking up 2 kills. In an all Tier 8 match, every single tank on this team is Tier 8, which is, well, it's not the worst matchmaking the STA-2 could get. With the new matchmaker, your Tier 8 premium tanks most of the time are finding themselves in Tier 10 matches, which is a bit of a kick in the balls. But it's definitely not the best matchmaking in the world. Although, I mean, with this matchmaking, when you get a match like this, it feels slightly churlish to complain about it, because there isn't a Death Star trying to one-shot you or something along those lines. Anyway, the scoreline is 7-1. I don't think this match is going to last particularly long, and in the under 4 minutes that this match has been proceeding for, Jelly Boy has already managed to rack up over 3,000 damage. Say what you will about the STA-2, but the DPM is not too shabby. Not quite as good as it used to be, if memory serves. I believe they kind of buffed some other aspects of the gun, like penetration, but still pretty darn decent. Now, Jelly Boy has 20 rounds of high explosive anti-tank ammo, probably for those Tier 10 matches, but he hasn't fired a single round of that here, instead firing a whole bunch of armor-piercing, auto-aim Mr. Tiger. Goodbye, Mr. Tiger, you become kill number 4. 3,839 damage. And he just plows on forwards. This has been a bit of a romp, if we're going to be honest. I mean, the scorelines tend to make of that what you will. But Jelly Boy has been right in the middle of it, making lots of people hurt from the beginning. So let's see what else he can manage to rack up. Having a look at this Scorpion away in the distance. There we go. High damage roll into him. One more shot should finish this sucker off. Like that, and he becomes Jelly Boy's 5th kill. And then we've got a Rheinmetall Borsig away in the background. Interestingly, Jelly Boy doesn't take any high explosive ammunition on this gun. I mean, I can understand why 90mm HE at tier 8 isn't exactly that impressive. Although I must admit, I personally still take a round or two of high explosive. I do find it useful from time to time. Although I wouldn't necessarily recommend taking loads of it. There you can see the rather... well, there is actually a wreck in the way, but also the accuracy on this gun being rather mediocre, although apparently that time it decided to be a sniper rifle. And there goes the Borsig, just leaving a Chrysler Grand Finals left up and running. 4 shells left in Jelly Boy's gun. Going for this Chrysler, can he possibly break the 5k damage mark? That would be nice, especially as his gun only does 240 alpha each time he pulls the trigger, and this time, just to try and make that damage count, he has switched to high explosive anti-tank ammunition, because he really wants that 5k damage, methinks. Although these shots are into the side, I mean, armor piercing would do the job, sets the Chrysler on fire, the guy dies by burning, and that is the match. Under 6 minutes, and it's over. Let's go and have a look at the post-game stats. Here we go then for Jelly Boy 49. That was enough for Ace Tanker, perhaps unsurprisingly. Hand of God, which is a bit more surprising. Bruiser, Arsonist, Fire for Effect, High Caliber, and a Top Gun medal there. Managed to finish at the top of his team by damage, kills, experience, anything you want to look at. 5,474 damage done, 6 kills, 1,694 base experience. Of course, this is a premium tank, so you kind of want to look at the credit side of things. But before we get to that, 28 shots fired, 23 hits, 23 pens for that damage count, most of which was from relatively close range. I say the Hand of God was surprising, because usually you end up getting that in a tank with at least a little bit of armor, but Jelly Boy took 4 hits and they all penetrated, but go figure. 1 enemy vehicle spotted, 11 damaged, 6 destroyed, 135 assistance damage, 2.34 kilometers travelled. Not too shabby in under 6 minutes. And with a standard account, after you take away ammunition resupply costs, remember at the end he did fire a couple of heat rounds just to try and secure the damage on that Chrysler GF. That was a 63,500 credit profit. With a premium account, that would have been 109,500 credits. And I think there was some sort of mission going on at the time, because that's quite a lot of experience to have received for that match, so maybe ×5 experience or something like that. Either way, a very nice wodge of XP there for his crew, or for his free XP reserve, or for whatever Jelly wished to use it for. So a very nice game there from Jelly Boy 49 in his STA-2. Let's go and have a look at another game then. Game number 2 then, and this time we join Gerlund Panzers in his, slightly ironically given the name, in his T26 E5 Patriot. Tier 8 American Premium Heavy Tank. Another Tier 8 match, although this one is not entirely Tier 8. There are some Tier 7s and, good lord, Tier 6s in this game. You'll notice that despite the fact that I mentioned Tier 8s often see Tier 10s with the current matchmaker, both of these matches have not been that situation, because let's be honest, a tank with 200 pen and 240 alpha damage, whilst it's not impossible for it to do well in a Tier 10 match, they're also arguably not exactly the ideal circumstances. Especially a tank like the Patriot, which really does trade in some other advantages that, say, for example, the STA-2 gets for that armor, which becomes of decreasing value when you are bottom tier. Nonetheless, here on Kampanovka, and unfortunately, Gerlund Panzer's already taken a shot in the bum from an enemy 5916. Not a huge amount of damage, but the guy was firing APCR ammo, because of course he was, and you do kind of have to wonder why he bothered coming up to the hill in a light tank. But, who am I to argue? He did what he thought was the best thing, and actually it looks like there's a good chance he's going to get away with it, so I guess I shouldn't really criticise. Coming around this corner, who can we see? Ooh, T28 trying to pick out that little hatch on top. Successfully manages to do so. And if Panzer here can keep picking out the weak spots, the T-28 of course has about 1500 hit points that he could farm for XP, which would be nice. Hello, Mr. Stolitzwang. Goodbye, Mr. Stolitzwang. That is him dealt with. Killed a tier 6. Hurrah! Frabjous Day. Kalu Kalay. So, coming around again, Commander's hatch thing on the T-28. Frontal armour on that tank is actually not too shabby. The upper part of the superstructure can be very considerable indeed. Even if you're firing premium ammunition from a tier 8 tank, that can be a challenge. Lower part of the superstructure, you're looking at around about 200 and something odd millimeters. Hello 88. Wow, that one bounced. That surprised me. 88 is receiving a buff, but it hasn't done so yet, of course. It still, in this replay, has the garbage armour to work with. Yay. Hurrah. So, just managed to break over 1,000 damage so far. Not fired any premium ammunition so far. Just good old-fashioned... Well, the Patriot gets APCR as standard, so good old-fashioned APCR. One shot there into the side of the 88, and possibly the biggest threat now to approach, a KV-2, because it doesn't care as much about the Patriot's armour. I mean, and the T-28 is still encroaching. Using this VK as a shield is not a terrible idea. And T-28 manages to put a shot into Panzer's hull. The hull on the Patriot, I must admit, I have personally found deeply disappointing. And now this T-28 is kind of screwed. Panzer takes out the guy's tracks. He repairs those tracks. He's coming around to take out the T-34. Panzer takes out the tracks again. Little bit of damage there from an Su-152. Another HE shell, this time from an Oni. And you can see so far how effective the Patriot's armour has been. And I must admit, everyone crowed about the Patriot's armour. Oh, it's really good, blah, 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 blah. But I haven't played many games in it. My personal experience is that the armour in this tank, honestly, a lot of the time, doesn't really count for squat. You know, one of the big differences between this tank and, let's say, a T-32 or something, is this thing gets some hull armour to work with. Yeah, it's not that impressive, though. It's basically armour-wise very similar to a T-32, kind of turret or go home. So, yeah, the gun is certainly not bad. You get decent DPM on the gun, even if your alpha is only 240. And 230 penetration is good enough. Anyway, enough of my babbling. Hello, Mr. 5916, that one missed. Unfortunately, the friendly WZ-132 just got ammo racked there, which is a bit of an issue. Oni is coming to do some mischief and puts an a high explosive shell into Panzer's tank. Once again, the armour there, well, it will reduce a bit of the damage from the HE shell, but so far Panzer has bounced a total of 115 damage when top tier. Gotta love these dirtmobiles, eh? Got to love them. One more shot would kill the Oni. And there's no artillery on the enemy team, so Panzer doesn't have to worry about that too much, which is something. Cromwell, AMX-12T, and who else was last spotted down there? Not quite sure. T-25/2, Panther, bunch of tanks down there. Panzer does need to be a little bit careful, because the sides and rear of this tank are still made of paper. It is an American tank after all. Still trying to do something about this Oni. Oni has fired with that big old derp gun. The problem is that if Panzer here tries to take advantage of that too much, he's going to get shot by a lot of the enemy team's friends. And despite the fact that his team got off to an early start, they've since held down the W key until they died, and so the scoreline is now actually 7-8, would you believe. 2,500 damage from Panzer here. Seeing if you can get some more on that Panther. Should be able to. There we go. And there's a lot of people seem to be getting in his way this replay. I wonder why. And the Tiger P takes out the Oni, which is nice. So Panzer falls back a little bit. See if you can do something about this Panther, who is in quite a nice spotting location. The effectiveness of this location is slightly mitigated by the fact that there's no artillery, of course, but, you know, the Panther's position is still pretty decent. It'd be even more decent if his team controlled the hill, but they don't, so go figure. Little bit of a lull in the action here. And I feel I should clarify from some of my earlier comments. I'm not saying the Patriot is a bad tank, I certainly don't think it is. But in the few games of it that I have played, I have not found it to be the overpowered pone wagon that lots of people were claiming it was. And part of that, of course, might be that with the... oh, should have let that one aim. With the current matchmaker, tier 10 games are very much a thing that you get. And, well, also, you know, with things like the Japanese heavies and whatnot, there are an awful lot of howitzers. Should have aimed that one slightly more carefully. There are an awful lot of howitzers around, although what this Cromwell's doing out in the open, I have no idea. And against derp guns, of course, your armour is not irrelevant, but of less relevance than it would otherwise be, let's put it that way. So, the Panthers managed to make it into a forward position around that lake. There's nothing here that Panzer can really do about that chap where he is. And they've lost their T-21 as well. So they no longer have a light tank, which is a bit of a shame because this is Malinovka. And the enemy team still have 2 light tanks, AMX-12T, and somehow that 5916 has survived up until this point. Given how aggressively that Chinese light tank was playing, it's a little bit surprising, but I guess credit to him. Well done to him for managing to pull that off. And just as I was saying that and congratulating the guy, it seems he decided to commit suicide by hill and becomes Panzer's 3rd kill. Unfortunately, they lose their T-28 HTC at the same time. Yeah, swings and roundabouts. Looks like the IKV is getting absolutely thwacked, so that's going to be a problem. SU-152 is also coming to join in the party, and the friendly team at this point are decidedly on the back foot. Enemy team have a 1 tank advantage, and it's not as if the friendly team have a tier advantage either. Basically, the enemy team have 1 extra tier 7. So, yeah. Bit of a problem. Now, the Patriot, being an American tank, tends to have pretty decent view range, so you could get away with putting optics on this tank if you wanted to. Judging by the view range that Panzer's got, I'm pretty sure he's probably got a very similar equipment loadout to myself, and is using vents instead of optics. I mean, it's one of those things, you kind of trade one thing for another. In this particular scenario, you might want the optics instead, just to try and spot out that TVP as quickly as you can. But overall, yeah, you kind of choose the equipment that you want and that you think matches the tank's play style the best. So, lost the friendly Tiger P, and so it's just Panzer here and that T-34-85 from earlier on. Oh, they're the only ones remaining. So this is a slightly dicey situation. Ordinarily, I'd say that you could go hull down and things would generally be fine, but, well, that SU-152 shot Panzer with HE earlier on, although looking at it, it looks like the guy might be using the 122mm gun. And there we go, he is. He just bounced, in which case this guy has become a corpse. AMX-12T, who has been racking up the kills this match, finishes off the T-34-85, and Panzer is now alone and outnumbered 3 versus 1. This is a bit of a problem. Ideally, he wants to kill these guys one at a time. It's not as if he has a huge amount of health to work with either. Nice lucky shot there into the Panther to even the odds and make it 2 versus 1. AMX-12T is going for it, which if the Panther had still been distracting Panzer here, wouldn't be a bad plan. As it is, seems a little bit dubious, but there's a rectal TVP, and Panzer really doesn't want to give that guy his bum. So, the whole killing them one at a time thing, well, he managed to take out the Panther, but this is going to be awkward. All the enemy team need to do is have that TVP move up, and the AMX take advantage of him moving up to wreck Panzer from behind. These two guys just need to work together, and Panzer is screwed as it is. Well, they don't. They dither around, and Panzer is able to take out the AMX-12T with a little bit of a help from a fire, and then just leave himself against this TVP. Now, the hull armour on the Patriot, whilst it's not all that I was hoping it would be, it is, generally speaking, enough to bounce same tier medium tanks, unless they are spamming premium ammunition at you. So suddenly that 3 versus 1 situation, now let's be honest, the TVP VTU isn't the best tank in the world, is not looking as dodgy as it once was. So Panzer is trying here to get in a decent shot. If you can go hull down, this guy's going to really struggle to penetrate him. Looks like the TVP is using the 88mm gun and the stock turret, which is a viable setup, but it means that even if he penetrates Panzer, he needs a high damage roll, which he didn't get. In fact, he rolled low, and that allowed Panzer to pick off the kill, and that was the match. Rather closer than the previous one. So, once again in this replay, let's just see how well Panzer did up there on the hill on Malinovka. So, for Girl and Panzers, that was enough for Ace Tanker, Hand of God, another Hand of God, Bruiser, Duelist, Fire for Effect, Shellproof, Steel Ball, High Caliber, and a Top Gun. 4,964 damage done. Sorry about that. 7 kills, 1,699 base experience. Another hard carry there in a tier 8 match. 35 shots fired, 28 hits, 25 pens for that damage count. All of it bar 271 from close range. 14 hits received, 6 penned, 8 didn't. 1,740 damage blocked by his armour. A little bit of assistance damage. And again, about 2.36 kilometers travelled, though this match was rather longer. With a standard account, that was a 74,000 credit profit. No premium ammunition this time. With a premium account, it would have been 123,000 credits. And once again, something was going on at the time. A nice slab of experience there. Very nice indeed. So, I hope you guys enjoyed those replays in a couple of tier 8 premium tanks. If you did, by all means, feel free to catch some of my other videos and or subscribe to my channel. And I wish you very happy hunting on that battlefield. Ciao, ciao.